We're just days away from the new season. We are ready. The question is, are you? Today, we're going to jump straight into our today's episode will be Jamie's, but we are doing 3 episodes on this entire Premier League table predictions from first right down to 20th. Join in, make sure you subscribe and follow the conversation. Without further ado, Jamie, let's kick things off with 20th place.
Right then, yep. Starting from bottom up. I've gone with Sunderland to go bottom. They came up through the playoffs, and for a team that managed to lose 5 of the last 5 games in the Championship before the playoffs, how are you going to do well in the Premier League? I know they've signed quite well. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think they needed a lot more, and I don't think it wasn't feasible to get enough to keep them to survive. So I do think they're going to go down. In 19th, I'm going with Burnley. Defensively, very, very good. Obviously, last year, losing Trafford is a big blow for them. And I don't think they'll score enough, to be perfectly honest. It's kind of one of them where Burnley are a very, very good Championship team, but they're just not good enough for the Premier League. So that's where I feel like they're going to go down. And then thirdly, not doing the clean sweep of promoted teams. I'm going with Brentford. You're losing Embuemo. You've lost Frank. Lost Norgard in the middle. Probably going to lose Wissa. I think it's too many goals have left the team, and the key sort of manager behind them. I think if Frank was still there, I'd give him half a chance. But yeah, I think Brentford are going to go down. I did say it last year and was completely wrong. So Brentford fans, don't worry too much with my prediction because I can definitely be wrong. If I do the next 4, so I've got Leeds coming in 17th. I'm quite confident these will be the bottom 4 teams. Now, if you switch Leeds for Sunderland, Leeds for Burnley, Leeds for Brentford, and one of them goes down, I wouldn't be that surprised. But I think it's going to be these 4 at the bottom for the proper relegation battle. Then I've gone with Crystal Palace. Because they're playing in the Conference League, I don't think their squad is big enough. They still might lose Eze, and I think that's going to be a big distraction for them. I don't see them bringing in enough players to help with the next lot of games and the travelling they're doing. So I think they'll, even though they've just done brilliantly winning the FA Cup and the Community Shield, I think this season the sort of performances will go down because Europe will take their toll on them. Then I'm going with Wolves. I think they're doing all right. I just don't see them doing too much better than, say, this sort of 13th to 17th, really. And then I've got Fulham. No signings. Most expensive seats in the world, or the country at least. It's not a great time for them, to be being totally honest. Nothing to really get excited about, but yeah, I'm not that excited for them. And then I've gone West Ham. West Ham, I do think actually could surprise a lot of us. I think Potter's going to improve West Ham just generally, let alone without players. Kudos did leave, but he wasn't performing for him anyway. So I'm not that concerned about him leaving. I think if he can get Fulkirk going as a striker role and get Bowen in his proper position, then I think that could work better for them. But it's hard to say any higher this for West Ham. Reece Jordan, what's your opinion on my sort of down 13th to 20th?
Sunderland, man. I look at their signings and I just go, how can they be 20th? I don't think they'll be bottom, is all I will say. I think, you look, I'm not saying they're going to go, miles up the table, right? But like Adingra, Xhaka, Diarra, Lafay, even Guiu, like, I don't know. I don't think they'll be last. I know it's still a big jump up and you've still got all GL, but to me, that's a really good window. And I don't know. I don't think they'll be bottom. That's all I will say. Reese,
Yeah.
actually, well, yeah. Say your thoughts on Sunderland. I've got one more to add.
Yeah, I think that's harsh. I think I do agree it's the gelling aspect of Sunderland. Their pre-season games haven't exactly wowed me. But again, people say you can't look too much into pre-season. I don't want Sunderland to upset the apple cart of the players that got them to where they are. I think clubs can get too guilty of that, trying to buy and get depth in and upset the balance completely. I think we saw that with Burnley with Company a couple of years back in particular. Not in Forest scrape survival after building a whole new squad. Yes, I know they had a lot of loans, etc. Anyway, so they had to try and balance that. But Regis Labrie is very good at getting the best out of young players, and you will see that in the Premier League just how good some of them are. Very talented. I think bottom probably not. However, I do somehow think Burnley have a stronger mentality than what Sunderland do, which is so important.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add was Palace. I do get the logic. Europe plus Eze potentially leaving. It does still feel to me a bit low, if I'm being honest. I'd still back the manager. I'd still back the squad to be higher than that. If they lose Eze, then I'd probably entertain it more. But yeah, I don't know.
I just think they're going to get to a position where they're going to be safe. They're not going to be. I know I've put them 16th, so they're close to the relegation spots, but they're actually points wise fine. And then they're going to be like, oh wait, we've got Europe, and actually we've got a chance to win this. And like, it's so much more important to go and win that trophy than come from instead of 16th, go 13th. It's it,
Yeah, like almost do what Spurs did in a way, and they're just like, yeah, we're safe, we're shit, but we, like we just got to focus on
Yeah, and I
Europe.
don't think they'll get relegated. It's
Yeah,
just, yeah, like I said, I think the bottom four teams that I've put here will be bottom four. So I think there'll be a gap, and then it'll be Palace because they've gone. We might as well go for the Conference League.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. This is the thing with Palace. They are more than capable of winning the Conference League. Oliver Glasner has won the Europa League himself, with Frankfurt. So he's doing it with teams that are very unfancied. They're more than capable of doing that. Would they take that? 1000%. Palace fans, what, they've lingered around 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, since they've been back in the Premier League for about 10 years now. And they've not had a trophy to show for it. Now they do. They might as well leave a dynasty here and go for the Conference League. It's the strength in depth that's the big issue, but they've got great young players, as we saw in the Community Shield. If they lose Eze, expect them to sign somebody else. But yeah, I can see that logic to it. I think they would win the Conference League. Personally, I think they're the best side to probably be in it. Um, but yeah, it's a matter of if they were to lose Glasner for another job would be absolutely devastating for them.
Yeah. Right, moving on to the sort of 12th tonight. I've gone with Forest next. Once again, getting Europe again will hinder them in a bit. And I think you got to remember they had such a great season last year, unexpected. I just don't see them pushing up there again, and that's I kind of think I think I'm just going to fall down a bit at the table. But they are playing Europe as well, and it seems in pre-season they are struggling to score goals. They've had quite a few goalless games for them. Getting some clean sheets, I think they've had two or three 0-0s, but then I think they've lost 1-2-0 as well. It's like they just can't score at the moment. I think they were all in hitting their peak last season, all at the right time, which pushed them up the table. So I think they'll go down a bit. Then I've got Everton. I Once again, I think this is a team that's just going to struggle to score that many goals defensively. I think they'll be fine, but Moyes will get them out of it. It's sort of like they won't have any problems with it. Decore
you're
they've
saying Jack
lost.
Grealish doesn't score goals.
He doesn't, but it's not about him scoring goals. He does. He did a lot for City, but yeah, He didn't score tons of goals. Moving up, I've gone with Bournemouth. Defensively, they've been decimated. Is the only concern and why they. It's a good argument to say they're going to be lower down. I think they're a very good attacking side though still, and I like the manager, so I think they're going to they're going to be all right. I think. And then in ninth, I've kind of dilly dallied on this one, and I've gone with Brighton just. I think Brighton could have a better season than what was said on your episode, Jordan. Not any spoilers on that. You have to watch it if you want to see it. But yeah, I think Brighton can have an all right season. They're not going to properly push for the European places, in my opinion. But I don't think they're going to be in any trouble of falling down the league because a few of these other clubs, like Bournemouth, have lost some players. And you've got to see how they react, to be perfectly honest. And then a few are getting European football that they've not had in quite a while. So that's where I've gone with that. Do you want to make any comments on them before I move on to my top eight?
Yeah, they're all very sensible. I think when we saw Forest sort of slide down the league a little bit towards the end of the season, a lot of us implied that, they're still going to be happy with where they at, so that's okay. Losing Alanga was a big loss. And do we expect the same again from Chris Wood? I don't know. Remains to be seen there. But I think Santo is a man under unnecessary pressure. If he gets off to a bad start, will he get the sack? I don't know. I hope not. I don't think he will. I think they'll back him but it's just interesting to see where they go. Going on a European tour for them is much more important. Um, Brighton, you just don't know what you're going to get with Brighton. As we can see, they're more than capable of beating you 4-0, but losing 7-0 to you as well. So you just got to see what you're going to get with them. They need to stabilise that more than anything else. They've got a good draw at the Emirates, for example, last season, and then let themselves down in a couple of other games. So maybe try and find that balance and they can start creeping up the table. But they're probably the team who could take advantage of the other three here, because they've not had probably as disastrous or uneventful summer.
Yeah, I think for me, Forest feels harsh again. I understand the Europe logic. I understand Elanga. I think Gibbs White, keeping Gibbs White for them has been the signing, the moment of the summer. And you've got to remember, they're still defensively sound, right? They've been pretty good defensively in pre-season. They've got a rigid structure. So I think that's personally enough to get them above 12th. And I'd probably, I'd put them higher than 12th. Let's put it that way. Um, I think Chris Wood will. I'm not saying he'll do the same goals. I don't think he's going to drop off a cliff, is what I'm saying. So yeah, that feels a little bit harsh, but the others, I think, are there or thereabouts.
Yeah, fair enough. Now into my top eight. I've gone with Spurs, to be honest. They were close to going ninth. I've said it sort of in the other videos, I don't know what to expect from Spurs. They've also got Champions League football, you've got to remember. Despite being that terrible last season, they've got Champions League football. That's going to be a hindrance on the squad. I don't think the squad is good enough for Champions League, really, to progress far in it anyway. They can definitely get through the group stage because a lot of teams do in it, but yeah, I think they're not going to go too far up the table. Newcastle, I think, are still a very good side. The Isak is just a massive problem. If he was staying, I'd probably put him a bit higher, probably looking at fifth and sixth. But yeah, I've kind of dropped him down a tad because of that, and also them trying to sign three or four other players and failing every time. So you got to still see what Newcastle do for the rest of the window. They'll probably be one of the more exciting teams to follow for the transfer news on it. But yeah, it's been a bit disappointing summer so far for them. And then I've gone United, no European football. So I think that will help them get further up the league. But I still don't think they're good enough. They are doing what I said about 3 years ago. We did an FPL video and I went, don't put a United attacker in your team because they don't score enough goals. Getting in Cunha, getting in Mbeumo, getting in Sesko. I know I've been critical of Sesko on TikTok, but still it's more goals than what Højlund was doing and sort of their other attackers. So I think it's an improvement, so they will go up the table. And then finally, fifth place, I'm going with Villa. I think Villa are going to be sort of a solid side that are just going to be there and thereabouts, trying to get, if there's another fifth spot for the Champions League, they're going to be trying to get in on that. Any comments on them four before I move on to the top four?
I think that four is, yeah, it's very hard to predict that group of teams as well. United, again, you're just hoping that no Europe helps them for this position. But again, you could make a case for them being even lower, where it all goes, you know, Pete Tong again, where they've got a load of new signings who aren't gelling. They've got a new manager, so yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to predict. But I think United are an interesting one.
Yeah, look, United are the biggest side in the country, so I think what's expected of them is such a strange one because we're expecting better. Of course we are. And I think we know there's going to be better, but then again, we said this last season. But I believe that Ruben Amorim is the real deal, and I think there seems to be a better positivity around Old Trafford recently. So I expect them to be up there, especially with them not being in Europe. I still expect Spurs to play higher, also finish higher. I think Thomas Frank has got a settled squad there. Like I said, it was just the tactics and the injuries that hit them last season, so they'll be okay. Villa and Newcastle, you expect them to be there, but I think Villa and Newcastle, again, you don't know what side you're going to get. European football helps financially, etc., but it also can be a detriment to you, as we saw with Newcastle a couple of years ago. Um, but it depends on how a lot of these teams do in other competitions. You know, are they if they get to a League Cup semi-final or final, or progress in the Europa League or progress in the FA Cup, they're probably going to put all their eggs in that basket, which might affect their overall league position at the end. But yeah, it all makes sense. It'd be interesting to see what Villa do because I think Emery, sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get with him, and you never know. Can they keep hold of Watkins? If Isaac goes, he might be an ideal replacement, which would be the worst case scenario for Aston Villa to lose him to an outright rival.
Yeah, I'd
I think
agree.
he's fine
That would
now.
be
I think he's fine, Watkins. He was linked with United, but obviously United got Sesko, so I don't see him leaving personally.
yeah, that's fair enough. Right, into my top four. This could be any order, and I wouldn't be that surprised. Well, I've gone with Chelsea fourth. I do think there's a bit, well, like winning the Club World Cup, they've done well, and they were brilliant against PSG. Completely deserved to win. I still feel like a cup competition is different from the league in terms of the consistency you need to win the league, and I just think Chelsea won't have that. That's my criticism of them. It doesn't mean they're not going to. I think basically they should be looking to win the league next season with that consistency. That's how I kind of see it with it. And you also got to remember they're actually playing in Champions League this year compared to Conference League. Whereas Conference League, they could play a different 11, still probably win that game comfortably, and then on the next game in the Premier League, play a starting 11. So I think with the Champions League, you can't get away with that. So I think that will stop them actually having a title challenge as such. But I think they'll still get top four pretty comfortably. Then I'm going to go with Arsenal in third. Gorkres is a good signing. I think the ship has sailed for him to win the league because of the spending of Liverpool. City had their off season. I think they've improved in midfield. City have improved in midfield from last season, and Chelsea have improved as well. So I think the ship might have sailed for them to win the league. Because I said last season, I don't think City are going to win it, but I also said I didn't think Arsenal were going to win it. I was right, but I didn't back it up in my prediction because I didn't predict Liverpool to win it at all. And then second, I'm going with City, and mainly the reason why I'm saying that is because Liverpool have to win the league this year. And that is my flatline comment of they have to win it because they've spent so much money. After years and years of going, oh, we don't really spend money, but we've got the best goalie, left back, right back, centre backs, wingers, all this, and not winning leagues. They have to now because they've gone before. Their excuse was, oh, Man City spent all the money. That's why we didn't win the league, because they've spent the money. Liverpool, you've spent the money now, so you have to win the league. It's as simple as that. And that's why I'm putting them first. They have to win it. And if they don't, it's a failure. that's as simple as that. Their season is a fail if they don't win the Premier League or the Champions League. But I think I think they should be winning the league, considering the money they've just gone out and spent on Wirtz, a TK, and possibly even Isak after this, before the transfer window ends. What do you make of my
Yeah,
top four? Because I think it's fairly the same-ish.
yeah. I kind of agree. I agree with your point. I think the have to win the title. I feels like a bit of saltiness with the old City comments in there, but I get your point now, and it is funny. Yeah, you're right. That has been their excuse. It's been we can't spend money. We do it differently. We blah, 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 blah. Now they've actually finally started spending. It's like, well, actually, now you have to be in the title. I don't agree with they have to win the league, but I think you absolutely 100% have to be in the title race now because you've won the league. You've spent a load of money. Like, if you start dropping off, there's going to be some serious questions. Even though that feels a little bit harsh this early in Slot's journey. So yeah, Liverpool, the expectation, not that they never had expectation, but the bar for expectation has definitely been raised now massively. And yeah, the others I agree. It's very tough to call the top four this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll draw on the Liverpool aspect here. Like, look, they didn't expect to come anywhere near the league last season. As I mean, I love Arne Slot. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think he's proven that. He's backed it up. However, I think the sticking points for them were the poor performances in the League Cup final and the most recent Community Shield, which implies, surely it's going to be harder this time around then because all the teams around you have invested as well as yourselves. So the challenge is on Liverpool. It's a good pressure. Don't get me wrong, like you're playing to win the league, so there's no point playing football if you're not. Um, and they could thrive off that pressure. With that expectation of being the favourites might be a hard thing for them. Um, it's difficult because I don't think they should expect to win the league. Yes, the investment and the quality they've brought in, you should put them up there. But I expect them to probably go for at least win a domestic cup if they don't win the league, which wouldn't be a failure at all because they want to keep building that success and that momentum. I think if they finish trophyless, I think it would be very disappointing, but I don't think it will. I think if they can get in, at least one trophy over the line, that continues the building blocks to success. But I see where you're coming from, Jamie, in the sense of the money that's spent on the reputation of player they've spent is a big, big thing. This is pressure on Liverpool we've probably not seen for a very, very, very long time. Not even during Klopp's reign, to be fair. We're talking probably the 90s Liverpool when when they were expected to be there and thereabouts. So interesting to see how they go, I think.
Yeah, they deserve that pressure as well, right? Like as Jamie said, they've talked for years. Oh, City's been too much, Chelsea's been too much. Tears and that. Like you've done the same now. Now you've got to step up. So I think they deserve the pressure. And to your point, Reece, will they thrive under it or will they crumble? We don't know. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. Right, that is all we have time for. As I said, there is 3 episodes of this exact same one. We're all doing our own individual videos, so those links will be in the comments section, and we do want to hear from you as always. But of course, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.